Thank you, Giannis. And let me again welcome all of you to Calgary, one of North America's most vibrant cities, located in one of the continent's most beautiful regions. I want to join my colleagues in thanking Garth, Julian, Jody, and the entire team at Calgary Airport for what you've done for us. I don't think I'll ever be able to look at the colors red and white again without a smile on my face. So thank you all very much. Let's give them all a round of applause. It's great to be up here with our chair, Thela Bowens. A year ago in her home city of San Diego, she set out an ambitious agenda for ACI North America, and it's been an honor to work with her to move forward and meet the challenges she's laid out. This year, we're honored to share our annual conference with ACI World. ACI World's Director General Angela Gittins and Chair of the Governing Board Yanis Paraskis. It's a special treat to be here with you today. Working with you and your colleagues from around the world is one of the most rewarding aspects of my job as ACI North America President. ACI World is firmly established as the global voice of airports, accredited as such at ICAO and numerous other international bodies. Ours is a global industry faced with global issues, and under the leadership of Angela and Giannis, ACI has never been stronger. I encourage all of our members from North America, especially those who do not normally attend the ACI World Conference, to take full advantage of the fact that your colleagues from around the world are here with us in Calgary. Get to know them, learn from them, and I know they'll be just as anxious to get to know and learn from you. And I urge all of you, especially the North American members, a special plea to you to please join us this afternoon at the ACI World Annual General Assembly at 3 p.m. Last year in San Diego, I delivered what's been characterized as an impassioned indictment of the U.S. policy, somebody's laughing in the front here, of the U.S. policy framework. I don't have a chair next to me. U.S. policy framework. I didn't know if that would go over. If this was a North America conference, I totally would have brought a chair up with me today. Totally. Oh boy, okay. An impassioned indictment. Can't deliver impassioned indictments with a smile on your face. There we go. Of the U.S. policy framework for airport finance, using words like Nixon era, no bigger curse in my book, and job killing. It was all true then, and it's even more true today. But as this is a global audience, even though you understand the chair joke, I would like to take a moment to look at the broader picture. Earlier this year, I was in the audience at the ACI Asia Pacific Conference in Singapore. I recall listening to Tan Sri Bashir of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Kerry Mather of Sydney, Xiaoyang Li of Singapore, speak about the economic environment in which they work. Last year, I went to the ACI Europe and Asia Pacific Airport Exchange event in Abu Dhabi and listened to leaders like Declan Collier, then at Dublin, now at London City Airport, talk about his economic environment. Over the years, I've heard from a number of people, a number of presentations from such leaders around the world on these topics. Then when I come back to North America, it's almost like I've been listening to a different language. A bit less so in Canada than the US, but a different language nonetheless. It's become fashionable in the United States and to an extent in Canada to unfavorably compare, to put it kindly, the policy framework here with that in the rest of the world. And I've joined in this wholeheartedly. I know the North American airport industry is filled with some of the best business minds I have ever encountered. They are also among the most creative and driven people with whom I've ever worked. But they are held back on both sides of the border by federal policies and regulatory framework that shortchanges business acumen, stifles creativity, and stunts the drive of those leading our industry. The rest of the world's moving ahead, and we in the United States, and to a lesser extent Canada, are stuck. It's important for us to realize this. It's critical for our policymakers on both sides of the border to do something about it. It has been constructive that a call to global competitiveness is being spoken by so many in North American aviation. What's been disheartening, however, perhaps more so in the US than in Canada, is that the constructive nature of this call from the airport community is being drowned out by some who seek to use the language of international competitiveness to seek policy change only to benefit one portion of the industry or another. I agree with those, including many in the airline industry, who've pointed out that other parts of the world are more enlightened in their aviation policies than we are. Many of you here today come from countries and regions that recognize the strategic importance of your airlines and of your aviation infrastructure. You are fortunate to work with governments and industry partners that have recognized the strategic advantage and importance of the entirety of your aviation systems. The sole goal is not the profitability of the airlines, nor is it to build and export airplanes, although both are goals. The goal is a globally competitive aviation system that fosters economic growth. That's what we need on both sides of the North American border. That's why I've led the charge in the United States for a new national aviation policy. That is why the Canadian Airports Council is working so hard to draw the attention of the Canadian government to the need to ensure the global competitiveness of the airport industry. Now, it might interest those of you from other parts of the world to know that many of the same people who point to your regions and your nation's success in promoting successful airlines as a way to obtain point to your nation's success in promoting successful airlines only as a way to obtain government benefits for themselves, also argue against policies that would promote investment in aviation infrastructure. They point to the success of your airlines. At the same time, they're saying that there is no reason for further investment in airport infrastructure here. We already have our airport system, they say. Those other folks are just building what we already have, balderdash. What many of you are building are the new airports that will carry the global economy forward. The new airports that will strengthen aviation's role as the lifeblood of the global economy. Airports that will help carry airlines around the world to new heights of success and prosperity. Airports that will mean, ultimately, that we risk, in this North American region, being turned into a feeder system for a global aviation network. Those who say we already have the infrastructure we need remind me of the U.S. auto and steel executives decades ago who made similar arguments when others around the world were investing in more modern and efficient facilities. A decade or two later, and I was a young staff person on Capitol Hill at the time, I saw this. They were all over Washington, begging for protection against what they said was unfair foreign competition. That's the direction we are being pushed in aviation today. It might also interest some of you to know that some who argue that your nations are more enlightened than ours also argue against investing in airport infrastructure because they claim our system is already mature. The theory is we will not grow, so we don't need to invest. This ignores decades, really centuries and millennia, of history, economic, and demographic fact, not to mention plain common sense. The U.S. Census Bureau, for example, estimates that in the United States we'll add 120 million people to the U.S. population in the next 4 decades. We'll add, in other words, the population of Japan in that time. And they say there'll be no growth? Over the past decade, in the US, growth in the U.S. has been slow by any standard. Yet during that decade, the amount of growth in the United States economy is equivalent to the entire economy of Germany. In the U.S., we added Germany to our economy, even in slow times. And yet they say there'll be no growth? Just in the short time I've held this job, the iPhone, iPad, Twitter, Facebook, and a wide range of other new products I don't know how to use in industries have been invented. The pace of change and technological innovation is growing by leaps and bounds, and yet they say there'll be no growth. In the 1920s, the story goes, the then head of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office suggested closing the office down in the 1920s because he said everything of value that could be invented had already been invented. I hear echoes of that call in the assertion of those who believe we should not invest in the North American aviation system because ours is mature. On both sides of the North American border, our policies are inadequate to keep up with the innovation and investment occurring in so many other countries represented in this room today. We in the airport community here are working hard to make the case that we need a new policy framework, one that recognizes airports' important role as critical economic engines and recognizes the need to build and prepare for a competitive future as competitive nations. It's clear that the world outside of North America realizes that a new day has dawned and that their aviation systems must modernize and evolve to reach their strategic potential. ACI North America is committed to leading the effort to bring that realization home here in North America and to developing new aviation policies that will ensure we have the airports, airlines, and technologies needed to compete in the 21st century global economy. Thank you. And now for a lighter moment, I'd like to introduce Garth Atkinson, President of Calgary Airport Authority, this year's airport host. Under Garth's leadership, Calgary International Airport is heading in an exciting direction with a major expansion plan in place, including a new runway and international terminal. Already, the airport is Alberta's premier air passenger cargo gateway, contributing to Calgary's prosperity with a total GDP impact of $6 billion. Garth?